Dorian Gray stood alone, staring at himself. At least that is what it looked like. A beautiful young man in a quiet room, looking at the kind of face people had been admiring all his life. Soft eyes, perfect skin, that effortless youth that makes people lean closer without realizing they are doing it. But this time Dorian was not admiring himself. He was afraid, because for the first time he understood what everyone else had been seeing. He understood that his beauty was real, and worse than that, he understood it could disappear. One day that face would change. The softness would go, the glow would fade, time would touch him the way it touches everyone, and Dorian could not bear it. Now, to understand why this moment hits him so hard, you have to understand the people around him. Dorian had entered the story as the kind of young man people turned into something before they truly knew him. To Basil Hallward, he was art. Basil was the painter who had first looked at Dorian and seen more than a handsome face. He saw inspiration, a new way of seeing the world, a kind of beauty that made him feel, for the first time in years, that his art had found its soul again. And Basil loved that beauty almost too much, not in a simple way, not in a careless way. He looked at Dorian and saw something sacred, something worth protecting, something he was afraid the world would ruin. That is why he did not want Lord Henry near him, because Lord Henry was charming, yes, brilliant, yes, but also dangerous in that polished way some people are, the kind of person who can say something poisonous and make it sound like wisdom. Basil knew his friend. He knew Lord Henry liked to play with ideas. He liked to say shocking things and watch how people reacted. He liked influence. He liked the feeling of touching another person's mind and leaving a mark there. And Dorian was exactly the kind of person Lord Henry could mark. Young, open, beautiful, still soft enough to be shaped. So when Lord Henry walked into Basil's studio and saw Dorian for the first time, something began. Where Basil saw beauty and wanted to preserve it, Lord Henry saw beauty and wanted to test it. While Basil painted, Lord Henry talked. At first it sounded like ordinary conversation. Elegant, clever, almost playful. Then slowly it became something else. He began telling Dorian that youth was everything, that beauty was power, that life was too short to waste on dullness, duty, and ordinary rules. Then he said the line that settled somewhere deep inside Dorian. Because you have the most marvelous youth, and youth is the one thing worth having. Dorian did not fully understand it yet. So Lord Henry kept going. He told him that beauty was a form of genius, higher even than genius, because it needed no explanation. And then he gave Dorian the warning that would change the way he saw himself forever. Realize your youth while you have it. For an older person, maybe those words would sound dramatic. For Dorian, they sounded like prophecy, because he was young enough to be frightened by the truth in them. Lord Henry was telling him in the most beautiful language possible that the best thing about him would not last. That time was already coming for him, that one day the world would stop looking at him with wonder, and once that idea entered Dorian's mind, it would not leave. Then Basil finished the portrait, and when Dorian saw it, everything Lord Henry had said suddenly became real. That image from the beginning was not a mirror. It was Basil's painting, a portrait of Dorian Gray at the exact height of his youth, and it was perfect. Too perfect. It captured the face everyone loved, the beauty everyone admired. The softness time had not yet touched. And as Dorian looked at it, jealousy rose in him, a terrible jealousy, because the portrait would stay young while he grew old. The portrait would keep the face everyone loved. He would lose it. And in that moment, Dorian said something wild, something he did not fully understand. If it were I who was to be always young, and the picture that was to grow old. Then he went further. For that, I would give everything. I would give my soul for that. And that is the frightening thing. No dark ritual, no devil standing in the corner asking him to sign his name. Just a young man, terrified of losing his beauty, speaking from the deepest part of his vanity. Let the picture change instead of me, but let me remain exactly as I am. Young, beautiful, untouched. And somehow the wish listened. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Dorian still had the same face, the same charm, and the same power over people. He moved through rooms as he always had, admired before he was understood, and Lord Henry kept feeding the fire. He gave Dorian a way of thinking that made selfishness sound elegant. He told him to live fully, to chase sensation, to be afraid of nothing, to treat life almost like a work of art, something to be tasted and arranged and enjoyed. And you can see how easily Dorian falls into it, because Lord Henry does not make him cruel all at once. Oh no, he simply gives him permission. Permission to think of pleasure first. Permission to think of beauty as destiny. Then Dorian meets Sibyl Vane, and for a while it looks as if love might save him. Sibyl is a young actress in a poor theatre. Nothing about the place is grand. The theatre is shabby. The audience is rough. The whole thing should probably disappoint someone as refined as Dorian has become. But then Sibyl steps on stage, and suddenly none of that matters, because Sibyl is extraordinary. When she plays Juliet, she is Juliet. When she plays Rosalind, she is Rosalind. When she speaks Shakespeare, it feels to Dorian as if poetry has taken human form. He is completely swept away. He talks about her as if he has discovered some hidden miracle. He tells Basil and Lord Henry about this young actress with the excitement of a man who believes he has found something pure. And maybe he believes he loves her. But that is where things take an unexpected turn, because Dorian does not really know Sibyl. He knows her under stage lights. He knows her as Juliet, as Rosalind, as a voice, and a beautiful illusion. He loves the way she makes him feel. He loves the art of her. And there is a difference between loving someone and loving the version of them that performs beautifully for you. Sibyl, on the other hand, truly loves him. She calls him Prince Charming. To her, Dorian is not just an admirer in the audience. He is the person who makes real life feel bigger than theatre. So when Dorian brings Basil and Lord Henry to watch her perform, he expects them to see what he has seen. He expects wonder. He expects triumph. But that night, Sibyl acts terribly. The words fall flat. The emotion is gone. The audience becomes restless. Basil is embarrassed for Dorian. Lord Henry is entertained in that cold way of his. And Dorian is humiliated. He had brought them there to witness magic. Instead, they saw a bad performance. After the play, Dorian goes backstage to see her, and Sibyl is glowing. That is what makes the scene hurt. She is not ashamed in the way he expects. She is happy. She tells him that before she knew him, acting was everything to her. The theatre was the only place she felt alive. The painted scenes were her world. The roles were real to her. Then he came into her life, and real love made the stage feel false. She tells him, "You taught me what reality really is." To Sibyl, this is beautiful. She is trying to tell him that she loves him more than art. She has chosen life over performance, but Dorian does not hear it that way. Because the performance was what he loved. The illusion was what he loved. He did not come backstage looking for a real girl with a real heart. He came looking for the enchantress who had made him feel like life was poetry. And now she is standing in front of him, human and happy and ordinary in her love. So Dorian turns cruel. He tells her, "You have killed my love." Then he says the line that reveals the truth of it. "I loved you because you were marvelous, because you had genius and intellect, because you realized the dreams of great poets." That is the whole tragedy. He loved what she could become on stage. He loved the dream. He loved the art. But Sibyl herself, without the performance, is suddenly nothing to him. And he says that too. "Without your art, you are nothing." Then he leaves her. He walks away from this young woman who has just offered him the most honest part of herself. And by morning, Sibyl Vane is dead. She has killed herself. Now this is the moment when you expect Dorian to break, because a girl is dead. The girl who loved him and he was engaged to. The girl he wounded with words and abandoned in the very moment she was most vulnerable. And at first there is still enough of the old Dorian left for the news to disturb him, but then Lord Henry comes. And Lord Henry does what Lord Henry always does. He turns life into language. He takes something ugly and makes it sound elegant. He speaks of Sibyl's death as if it were a tragic ending to a beautiful play. Something sad, yes, but also artistic, dramatic, almost fitting. And Dorian listens. By the time Basil comes to see him expecting grief, Dorian has already begun arranging the tragedy in his mind. Basil asks him, "You call yesterday the past?" And that question should stop Dorian. It should shame him, it should make him hear himself. But Dorian has already started speaking in Lord Henry's voice. He says, "I don't want to be at the mercy of my emotions. I want to use them, to enjoy them, and to dominate them." That is when Basil sees it. Maybe not fully, but enough. Dorian still looks like the beautiful boy who used to sit in his studio. The same youth, the same softness, the same outward innocence. But something behind the face has changed. Basil tells him, "You talk as if you had no heart, no pity in you." And that moment is the full circle, because Basil was the first person who looked at Dorian and turned him into art. Lord Henry looked at Dorian and turned him into an experiment. Dorian looked at Sibyl and turned her into a fantasy. Everyone kept admiring something, the beauty, the performance, the idea, the image. And somewhere inside all that admiration, the human being disappeared. Basil loved Dorian's beauty so much that he painted it like something sacred. Lord Henry loved Dorian's beauty because it gave him something to influence. Dorian loved Sibyl's acting because it gave him something beautiful to feel. But when Sibyl stopped performing and became real, Dorian did not know what to do with her. He punished her for becoming human. That is what makes this story so unsettling. The horror is not only that Dorian's wish comes true, the horror is what the wish reveals. Dorian wanted the face without the consequences, the beauty without the decay, the admiration without the responsibility. And after Sibyl's death, he begins to understand what that means. His face does not betray him. The world can still look at him and see innocence, but somewhere else, hidden away from every admiring eye, the truth has started to appear. The picture has begun to change, and this is where Oscar Wilde's own life starts to echo through the story. Because Wilde understood what it meant to be admired as an image. He was not just a writer people read, he was a personality people watched. The wit, the clothes, the confidence, the sharp little sentences that made rooms laugh and then think later. Victorian society loved the performance of Oscar Wilde. They loved how brilliant he was, how stylish, how entertaining, how unlike everyone else he seemed. But society has a way of loving people only as long as they remain the version it prefers. And Wilde knew that too. When the picture of Dorian Gray first appeared, people did not simply say, "Here is a dark story about beauty and corruption." Many treated it like evidence, as if the book itself revealed something dangerous about the man who wrote it. Later, when Wilde's own life became public scandal, that same society that had enjoyed his brilliance began looking at his art, his friendships, his style, his private self, and judging all of it through the harshest possible lens. That is the cruel thing. They loved the performance, but did not really know the person, and when the person became too visible, they turned away. That is why the picture of Dorian Gray still feels modern. Because we still do this, we still fall in love with images. A beautiful face, that perfect photograph, a charming public figure, a life online that looks carefully lit and easy to admire. We see the portrait people show us, and we think we know them. Sometimes we praise the charm and excuse the damage, and sometimes by the time the truth finally appears, we realize we were never looking at the person at all. We were looking at the image. That is the question Wilde leaves hanging over Dorian Gray. If a person looks innocent enough, how long will the world keep believing in them? And if the truth has to go somewhere, what happens when it finally refuses to stay hidden? Dorian Gray still walks through the world young and beautiful. People still admire him. People still want to believe the best of him. But somewhere locked away from every eye, there is another version of him. A version that remembers everything. And once that portrait begins to change, you keep reading because you want to know how far it will go. How much can Dorian hide? How long can beauty protect him? And what happens when the thing he cursed himself to create finally shows him what he has become? Read The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde for free on Ample Reads. And if stories like this fascinate you, like and subscribe. We break down classic novels like this every week.